most probably here. And Nick Curvis takes a really big mark. Ablett from 55. Ablett has kicked the second third quarter goal.
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett and welcome to Access All Areas, brought to you by Sportsbet. It's a Richmond-Geelong grand final. Bring on Saturday night, Matthew Lloyd.
I can't wait for it, Damo. We've got the two, I think, mature teams in the grand final. I thought Port Adelaide, they were really brave in their game, but lost some players. But Brisbane, they were overwhelmed by Geelong. And Geelong come into this game in red-hot form their last 2 weeks. They've sucked the life out of both Collingwood and Brisbane. Brisbane just didn't play with the energy that they played with against Richmond. They were in the faces of Richmond. They tried to take it up to Richmond. But I think the way Geelong controlled possession of the ball, I think it's been overwhelming teams. Chris Scott's had a really good year as a coach. When they win games, they win it the same way every time, Damo. They had 65 more disposals, 27 scoring shots to 12, 10 more inside 50s, and they dominated the Brisbane midfield pretty much from the first bounce. So I thought 40 points flattered Brisbane. It could easily have been 80 points in the game had Geelong kicked a bit straighter.
Well, there's a real contrast in playing styles with this particular grand final, isn't there? And you're the expert in this space. Take our viewers through what you're going to see on Saturday when it comes to those styles.
Yeah, I talk about control versus chaos. So, in my opinion, that they want, obviously, to control possession of the game. That they're taking nearly 100 marks a game, Geelong. Richmond won't allow that, and they want probably more of a stoppage game, pressure game, surging the ball forward. Like we've seen them win many, many games over the past 3 years. So can Geelong get that, control game, uncontested marks, get all their forwards up high and then dart little low pass, flat passes into Tommy Hawkins. That's how they want it. Whereas Richmond, I think they'll want a scrappy, dour, more affair. They can win it in a number of ways, Richmond, whereas Geelong, I think their best chance of winning is what they've done over the past fortnight, where they control possession, uncontested marks and get you that way.
Hawkins obviously has to kick goals, and while that sounds obvious, he didn't do that in the qualifying final. Geelong lost the game of footy. The way they brought the ball into him, though, on Saturday night, through many different ways, Lordo, was basically unstoppable.
It was, and they get the ball to, controlled up to about 50, 60 metres out, and then it's a low dart pass. I don't think Harris Andrews could have done much. You can't stop this. So they're so experienced that Gary Rohan, Ablett, all these players, they know their roles that they need to play. The issue for them is this week they'll have Liam Baker, Basher Hawley, Dylan Grimes, experienced players who know when to roll up and follow, and they all know when to hold back and get in front of Tom Hawkins. So it's going to be a fascinating game to watch this Saturday night.
These teams met as recently as round 17. Geelong had a couple out. Noah Bolter had the role on that occasion on Tom Hawkins. Do you expect him to get the role again? Oh,
he's a perfect matchup for him. I know he hasn't got the experience of Tom Hawkins, but he's a huge man. He's 105 kilos, 197, 198 centimetres. So he's a perfect matchup for him. But what I noticed on the night was, he got beaten occasionally like this, but just the layoff players. Dylan Grimes was all over him. He supported really well. But you look at this forward line of Geelong. Radaglia was there, who can't get a game now. Jarvis played, and also Brad Close played. So they could lay off those opponents like this. So they also got it more a scrappier game, Damo, and they really struggled to score, Geelong. So he had a few chances, Hawkins, but Richmond played them beautifully. But it's a much better Geelong team this time around that encountered Richmond only a month ago.
He's multi-dimensional, Hawkins, isn't he, Lord? He's not just that mark and kick player. Around the stoppages within the forward 50 of the Cats, he's become crucial this year, was again on Saturday night.
Some of these taps are as good as Nick Natanui's, what Hawkins produced on the night, and I think it's something that Brisbane will go away, and Oscar McInerney will say, well, I learnt a lesson from Tom Hawkins, a forward who was just too big and strong for me, and McInerney kept doing the same thing over and over again. He had to get in front, or take the run of Tommy Hawkins. He put it on a platter, and I think that's where Noah Bolter and Toby Nankervis, they won't allow that to happen. It just shows how far Brisbane have got to go. Because, as I said, it's another area where they'll taught a good lesson on Saturday night by the Cats.
Lotto, the amazing career, the 19-year career of Gary Ablett comes to an end in this game on Saturday. 357 games of football he will have played. His 356 was one of his very good ones. The 2 goals he kicked in the third quarter basically broke the Lions. And his forward partner, his small forward partner in Gary Rohan, had his best final too.
they've done well, these guys, because I thought Ablett, Myers and Rohan against Port Adelaide had a real poor final. They didn't score between them. And their past fortnight against Collingwood and also Brisbane, they've been electric. But again, the pressure will be on more so than Collingwood and Brisbane put on these guys. I think they've dominated the midfield, which has really assisted. So it's coming in much, much better. So Daniel Rich and these guys, they were laying off when they couldn't. So I think that's where, how do they go up against Baker, Hooley, Broad, pressure on the ball? I think that's going to be a real factor because they can't rely on Hawkins only, which they did in that first final against Port Adelaide, where Port made it a real inside contested game, and guys like Ablett, Rohan and Myers really struggled. So, yeah, they need their midfield on top for those guys to have an influence.
No matter who you support, and Richmond supporters included in this, it's going to be special seeing Ablett play that final game of his career in a grand final. Although he managed to get 2 Brownlows throughout that career, and someone who earned his first on Sunday night, just gone, was Lachie Neale. We seemingly had known for some time he was going to win it, but it was resounding, wasn't it?
Oh, it was resounding, and I think he deserved 10 votes. I didn't expect that. Petrarca and Travis Boak had super years, but just the consistency of him is phenomenal. It's just now on the rest of the Brisbane Lions to improve around him. I heard Lachie Neale at the start of the year say, I think he was 3rd in the Brownlow last year, and he said, I want to get more metres gained in my game, so not as many little handballs, and I want to kick more goals. He did that. Just proves what a champion he is, always wanting to improve, and yeah, he deserved that Brownlow last night.
It's an intriguing matchup, this grand final. Let's see how Sportsbet with Nathan Brown is viewing it.
Yeah, thanks, Damo. It was a fill-up for the punters last night at the Brownlow medal. Lachie Neale, 80% of the money we had was on Lachie Neale. Congratulations to Lachie Neale, fantastic Brownlow medalist. But it's all about the grand final. Richmond up against the Cats, and we've taken more money on Richmond so far. The punters believing that the Tigers are going to go 3 from 4 years, which leads us to the Norm Smith medal. And how could you go past Dustin Martin? He's already won 2. Why not make it a treble? That's the grand final. That's the Norm Smith medal. If you're going to punt on it, please do so responsibly. And back to you, Damo.
Nathan Brown there of Sportsbet. Lordo, the Tigers did what they have so often done in the past 4 seasons, just ground out a very impressive victory against Port Adelaide.
Oh, it was a magnificent win by Richmond, and it was also a brilliant final. So Ken will go in pretty satisfied. He'll be disappointed, having it on their own deck, but they threw everything at Richmond. They had injuries late. We just wanted to highlight the stoppages. So Port Adelaide had 15 more inside 50s on the night, but it was the tough bodies of Richmond in the end that overwhelmed them. Toby Nankervis, we'll talk about him shortly. His second half was huge, but you can just see the big bodies of Graham, Prestia, Martin, Cochin, I think proved too much in the end. They had 9 more contested possessions, 12 more clearances late in the game, which allowed them to get that 6-point margin at the end. They both kicked 6 goals, but Richmond created more scoring shots. And even this, the panic from Richmond's midfield, which created this last Lambert goal, that to me was the key in the game, and it will be the key in the game versus Guthrie, Menegola. Can they handle and step up against this seasoned midfield of Richmond?
They just find a way, don't they, Lordo? The only glitch in the past 4 years has been that quarter of football against Collingwood in the 2018 preliminary final. And they've even learned from that, haven't they? They just find a way. Nankervis was one of those people who had to find a way at half-time and lifted, didn't he?
Well, since he's come to Richmond, he's playing in his 3rd grand final. So he's been phenomenal for them. And I thought Lysette had the better of him in the first half, but he's just so smart. He grinds away. He's the type of ruckman who wants to be the only ruckman in the team. I wouldn't even think about bringing Chol in because I think Nankervis loves the responsibility. When others tire, Nankervis gets better. And I think what he'll do, we see this vision here, Tommy Hawkins, get ready for Nankervis behind the ball. And that's what he'll do really well. Having Tom Lynch in the team, Tom Lynch can take forward half ruck hit-outs, a bit like Tom Hawkins does. And Nankervis will get back behind the ball and just create havoc in the way for the types of Tommy Hawkins this weekend.
What do you make of Port's decision to mainly play Darcy Byrne-Jones on Dustin Martin? It didn't seem to work, Lordo.
He was an All-Australian half-back, but he was the wrong matchup. And you see this, only 1 point has been kicked in the game. And the way he was pushed off the ball, you'd say, nah, it's not the right matchup. And then here, Trent McKenzie, this was a handover, but Trent McKenzie did not put body on Dustin Martin. So the way he needs to be played is, I'd be suggesting Cameron Guthrie, you have Dustin Martin in the midfield. So whenever Richmond win possession, Guthrie men a goal, they have to say, who's got him, who's got him? And the moment he darts forward, Kolodjasny says, I've got him. And they have to continue to communicate. The communication must be elite and at the best levels you can think of, because Dusty and Kane Lambert and all these guys, they switch over at times, and players think he's a midfielder at some stage when he's a forward, and when they think he's a forward, he's a midfielder, so they get caught out. So I think Kolodjasny and Guthrie are two players who have to communicate all night and hand over to each other so he can't get off the chain like that.
Well, Port Adelaide, like Brisbane, for what it's worth, I'm giving them big pass marks for the season. You reach a preliminary final and you win a final to get there. It's a success. But ultimately, they're both going to be lamenting, aren't they? Lost opportunities. And they fell down when it came to a couple of big guys in their team, the Power, in Marshall and Laddams. They had nights they would rather not have had.
They did. I thought Rosie, Butters, not Butters to a lesser extent, but Rosie and Dersma were phenomenal. Phenomenal on the night. So they're ready for the big stage. But I'd say to Todd Marshall, you need to come back 4 to 5 kilos heavier. Laddams, you gave away 4 to 5 free kicks, which really hurt us. You know, there's a mark you need to take. So I reckon someone to support Dixon is a real... You know, they've got Georgiades and Marshall, so a lot to work with, but they need to get bigger. And in the back end, someone to help out, you know, Cleary, Jonas. Is there a defender across the competition that can help them out? So I think midfield, small half forward, half backs, they're placed beautifully. It's just their tall stocks where they were taught a lesson, I think, by guys like Bolter and Tom Lynch on Friday night.
But I think people forget that the 2019 prelim final had the Cats in front of Richmond by 21 points at half-time. And at that stage, they'd missed some opportunities. They missed some opportunities straight after the main break. They were without Duncan. They were without Hawkins. Look, I think it's pertinent to what we could see on Saturday night coming up. I think there are lessons that Geelong have lived with since that moment, which are going to become paramount come Saturday night at the Gabba.
Yeah, I think they maybe played a little bit safe at times. I thought it worked for them in the first half, but they missed a lot of golden opportunities. What they would have realised, and Chris Scott knows full well, is that you must play 4 quarters against Richmond. This is a team that keeps at you and at you and at you. And I thought Brisbane did that in the first final and rattled the cage of Richmond. Geelong have not been able to play that 4 quarters. They couldn't on the night, and they got steamrolled by a Richmond team who plays a type of brand of footy that they're always going to be in the game. Whereas Geelong are playing a brand of footy that, you know, they blow other teams away, but I don't think they'll blow Richmond away on the night. So, yeah, both teams come in unbelievable form. They both are choosing their best possible teams they could. No injuries, no excuses, and I think we get the best possible grand final we could hope for.
We do. Well, trade period officially starts in a week and a half. It's been ongoing now for some time already. Adam Treloar's name just keeps bobbing up, and it's still a watch this space situation with him. He's contracted, and that will be the default position publicly for both him and Collingwood. But the interest in the South East Queensland corner, particularly the Gold Coast Suns, has been there, and I expect it to be revisited. And I just can't get a read yet on this Jordan De Goey situation. He's priced himself out of the market from his optimum, but at the same time, he's still exploring all options. And the money that he wanted is not there. It may still be the highest pay will come his way via Collingwood, but again, it too is a watch this space.
Do you know of any other takers, like anyone who's the keenest from other clubs, Damo? You're aware of that?
It'll be a Melbourne club. Again, they're keeping their cards really close to their chest and dealing through his father in Roger De Goey is causing some complications to some clubs, but it will get pointy. An interesting one too, Lotto, is Isaac Smith from Hawthorn. There is a deal for him to stay as a Hawk, but Melbourne's become really interested in him. Do you like the potential for a marriage there, Smith and the Demons?
I do like it, but that's if they believe they can win a premiership in the next year or two, Melbourne, because I think they went Jordan Lewis, they've bought in Tomlinson, they've bought in Langdon. Just got to be careful they don't keep topping up when they've got to realise that they maybe aren't as close as they hoped they'd be. Jamo, just one on Jeremy Cameron. Any closer to knowing where he'll play next year?
No, and I just keep saying that, Lottie, you can remove all clubs other than the one he's at, the Giants, and the one that he's really interested to go to is the Cats. Look, unless something really remarkable happens from here, you can rule out Collingwood and all others in that scenario. But we're going to have to find out before Friday of next week officially. Lottie, you see some strange things at the footy. I saw a few strange things on the game on Saturday night. What did you make of this particular guy who was wearing this?
Hey, David, this guy must have known what was coming at half-time. They're only 5 points down, but I think he's thought, we're in trouble here, and I'd rather have my eyes on the beers here than on the football field, because he just knew that it was going to be an ugly second half, which it was. But he had the Fitzroy jumper on. It was like the Fitzroy of old in that second half, and he could see it coming.
Hey, who wins?
I think the Tigers by 2 goals, Damo. What about you?
I've got the Cats, Lotto. Yeah. Apart from that glitch they had in that first final, I think their back half of the year has been really, really good, and I've got them winning the 2020 Grand Final, but I've got no idea when it comes to footy tipping, Lotto, as you know. But thanks, as always, for your time on Access All Areas, and we'll be back to wrap up next Monday, the 2020 Grand Final.